A12s. Today we're going to be talking about social harmony. So this is still under formal language, which is the second area of study in Unit 3 English Language. Okay, so there are three key ideas that play into the idea of social harmony. So harmony, we're talking in the sense of like people getting along. So society being able to function cohesively and without people getting upset or offended. So the first key idea is taboo, euphemism and dysphemisms. The second is doublespeak, and the third is political correctness. And I'm going to take you through each one of these in this video. Okay, so taboo, euphemism and dysphemism. We have covered euphemism and dysphemism before, and we've touched on taboo. And the way that it ties into social harmony is the way that we maintain social harmony is through using euphemistic language to avoid creating offence around taboo topics. Taboo is forbidden behaviour in regards to both actions and language. So it could be a whole lot of different things. Typically we associate taboo with topics like sex, death, all of those things that we don't like to talk about in polite company. So dysphemism obviously is, well, typically, I would say almost always, is quite an informal feature, and euphemisms are the features that we use to kind of soften the blow of talking about taboo topics. Okay, I'd like you to pause here and do this task. So you need to list some taboo language. One way to know if it's taboo is if it makes you slightly uncomfortable. So if you're thinking about being in class, for example, and saying this to your teacher, if it makes you uncomfortable, it's probably a taboo topic. So jot that down, please. Once you're done, try and aim for maybe 5 or 6, and then come back to the video. In matters of social harmony, euphemism, which is inoffensive, sweeter sounding language, and dysphemism, offensive or nasty language, are key players. So euphemism is the polite thing to do, whereas dysphemism involves breaking a social convention, breaking what we expect people to do in society. Not all people will classify particular words as euphemisms or dysphemisms in particular contexts, as their interpretation of words is dependent on opinions and attitudes. So people interpret words and phrases differently depending on what they personally think themselves, how they've been raised, where they live, a whole lot of different social factors. So there's no hard and fast rule for what's euphemistic and what's dysphemistic. It does, to a certain extent, come down to interpretation. Since around the 1980s, gender, sexuality, disability and race have become so highly charged, so they've become such kind of emotional topics that English speakers often shun anything that may be interpreted as discriminatory or pejorative. And we try to avoid saying anything that might offend someone, is basically what we're saying here. All right, I just want you to watch this video.
I'm the last Weston left, so I plan to own it forever.
Forever?
Forever and ever.
That's a very long time.
A very long time.
I'm so sorry.
Fran, may I ask?
Go ahead, honey. Ask me anything you want.
Well, what happens to the place if forever isn't quite forever?
I don't understand, dear. All I know is that I can't sell the place.
Oh, no, I don't mean selling it. I mean, you would keep it forever, but what happens once you're no longer in the position of physically controlling the property?
How could that be?
Well, if you...
To take a long vacation.
Yes, take a long vacation. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And when you're on that long vacation, the property is just left sitting there. What happens then?
Oh, I don't enjoy vacations. I toured the California Gold Country 10 years ago. It was hot and the bus smelled.
Okay. I mean a longer vacation than a trip to California.
To a different place.
What kind of place?
A place out there.
Way out there, Fran.
Europe?
I mean the ultimate long vacation.
Yeah, Fran, see, eventually we're all gonna take the same long vacation.
And with that being the case, you might want to sell the property now and enjoy the money.
I'm very sorry, but I can never sell the place.
Oh, well, thanks for your time, Fran.
Yeah, thanks, Fran.
Bye now.
Okay, Okay, so what's interesting about this is that these two characters who we're looking at now are trying to use euphemisms for death to not offend Fran, so that because they're talking about her death, which is quite a confronting sort of topic, but unfortunately the euphemisms that they're using are just going straight over her head, and she's just not, the euphemisms are actually stopping them from being able to have a clear conversation. The meaning has just been completely lost between these parties. Okay, I'd like you to choose a topic from the following list and then write down as many euphemisms and dysphemisms as you can think of relating to that topic. So just pick one of them, maybe set yourself a timer for 5 minutes or 3 minutes, and just jot down as many euphemisms and dysphemisms as you can think of for that particular topic. Once you're done, come back to the video. Okay, we're into the second of the key ideas in social harmony, which is doublespeak. So doublespeak is the use of euphemistic, ambiguous, and indirect language to deliberately mislead, confuse, or obscure meaning. Okay, so obscure means to hide or cover up. And the key idea here is that this is done on purpose. So doublespeak is when you're kind of trying to say something without really saying something. It's used to make unpalatable, unpleasant truths sound more acceptable by making them hard to understand or intentionally ambiguous, meaning unclear. Okay, so if you've got something to say or you have to say something that is uncomfortable or that you know the person isn't going to want to hear, you might use doublespeak to kind of cover up what you're saying and make it sound less offensive. Think about the term peacekeeping, for example, which actually refers to a military presence in a country. So when one country goes to another country, the military goes to another country, and it's called peacekeeping, but we don't typically associate the military and the military's presence with peace. So this is an example of doublespeak, because they're trying to kind of cover up through the language what exactly they're doing there. It's really frequent in politics and advertising. And it allows politicians particularly to tell the truth without the audience really being aware, so they can come back, when the politicians are doing something, the public might say, well, you never said you were going to do that, and they can say, well, actually I did, but it's through the use of doublespeak, so the audience isn't actually really aware of what's going on. Okay, I'd like you to pause here. This is an example of a report from a few years ago. I'd like you to pause and try and jot down in a couple of sentences what this is really trying to say. Then come back to the video. Okay, so you'll notice, hopefully you will have picked up that this is not a particularly glowing report. We start off with this person has attempted all set assessment tasks in English this semester. They indicate a basic understanding of the skills and content, demonstrated a clear understanding of the text but did not adhere to proper essay structure. What we're hearing here, essentially, is this student cannot write a good essay. Okay, but it's not polite, it's not appropriate for a teacher to write that in a report, so they've used doublespeak to kind of say the same thing without the audience, meaning the parents and the student, really being completely aware of what's being said. Okay, I want you to do the same thing with this one. So this is taken from a real estate website, and it's about a house in Croydon, I think. I want you to jot down a couple of things that you think the real estate agent is trying to say without really saying it. Then come back to the video. Okay, so I'm looking at sentences like fantastically convenient location placed right in the centre of Croydon's bustling township, which sounds really nice, but what you actually, if you think about what that actually means, it probably means it's on a main road. So you're going to get a lot of noise, and it doesn't give the executive pad an urban edge. What it actually does is keep you awake with all of the trucks going past at night. Okay, so here we can see that doublespeak is being used in real estate to sort of cover up or hide some of the negative aspects of this house and instead show those aspects in a positive light. Okay, so here you need to go and do the doublespeak task, which is the mince article, sorry, not the article, the task from Boo Book, and that will have been provided to you by your teachers on the Google Classroom. So pause here and complete these questions about that article. Okay, so now we're going to do another task. So the Lingophile worksheet talking about climate change. Again, your teacher will have provided this task to you on the Google Classroom. Go and do that now, please. Okay, we're on to the third topic, political correctness. So prejudice, meaning judgment, happens when people form opinions without really knowing much about the truth of something. Okay, so they decide they don't like someone or something without any actual experience. And they tend to group the whole of that, all of the aspects of that thing into that judgment. So for example, if you have one bad experience with a teacher, you might decide that you hate all teachers. Okay, you've got an experience that makes you be prejudiced towards teachers. Prejudice is based on gender, social class, sexuality, age, religion, nationality, or language as examples. You can be prejudiced about a whole lot of stuff, but these are the most kind of common ones. There are three main topics of prejudiced language that we're going to look at. So they are sexist language, racist language, and homophobic or anti-LGBT language. So racist discourse revolves around the use of different sets of words, one for the in-group and one for the out-group. It's the result of prejudiced beliefs, and its purpose is to marginalise people. Typically, they're groups that are already being marginalised in society, and the language that's used, the racist discourse, is used to control that group and continue that marginalisation. All right, we're going to look at an example here.
It's another sculpture. It's another sculpture. I like it. Yeah. Ooh, it's another sculpture.
Okay, so this ad received a lot of criticism. So basically, it's because of a couple of things. So the first thing is we've got the visuals, which is the beer that's being slid down the bar past a whole lot of people with fairly dark skin to finally end up at this girl who is has quite fair skin. And that, coupled with the slogan, the words "lighter is better," is quite a racist message. Okay, so it's going past all of these people with darker skin, ending up with this girl who has lighter skin, and it's the language there, lighter is better, that really we can tell they're not actually talking about lighter in terms of alcohol content in the beer. Combined with the visuals, it's really a very racist message. Okay, so here you need to go and do the Lingophile worksheet called Deadly Questions that your teacher will have provided to you on the Google Classroom, then come back to the video. Sexist discourse. Okay, so it focuses on two things: how men and women use language, and then how language is used to represent women. Okay, so men and women do use language slightly differently, but we also obviously are talking about how language is used to talk about women, and kind of in a similar way to racist language. It's kind of can be used to continue to control women in society in a very sexist way. Okay, another example.
A very close call. Could have gone either way. It was right on the line.
Well, Ferguson's not too happy with it, I can tell you that much.
He's beating him like a rented mule.
And the ref's just tuning him out.
Boy, where do you train to take a beating like that?
He said, when's that porch gonna get painted? And that litter box! It's been 3 weeks! 3 weeks! And to think I could have married Don Hoffman! And would it hurt for you to say that you love me once in a while?
All right. So this is a sexist representation of the way that women use language. So this is relying on the kind of stereotype of a nagging wife. And it kind of marginalizes and attacks women for their use of language. Okay, political correctness. So politically correct language is designed to reduce or avoid potential offence or exclusion. Its purpose is to prevent bullying and offensive behaviour by using impartial language in place of words or expressions that are loaded with offensive undertones. Politically correct language can be seen as a unifying language style. When discussing political correctness, we need to make sure that we're being descriptive and not prescriptive. Basically, this means we don't want your opinion on a particular topic or whether or not something is politically correct or it's offensive. You need to just describe what you are seeing in the language. So sorry, but reserve your opinions for later. Okay, rules of political correctness. Be careful to address individuals and groups in ways that include all of them rather than a particular demographic. So, for example, using correct gender pronouns for individuals and referring to police officers instead of policemen, that kind of thing. Avoiding gender exclusion in titles and professions such as fireman and actress. Avoiding expressions that are derogatory, in particular in relation to ethnicity and physical and mental abilities. And avoiding discriminatory language of any kind, so any language that could be interpreted or is racist, ageist, sexist, ableist, homophobic, so on. Okay, and another task, so go to the Google Classroom to find where your teacher has given you the political correctness lingo file worksheet. And then a final task, complete the Apply Your Knowledge, the second one, on pages 164 to 165 in the Orange Fox Meta-Language textbook.